I'm Rick Johnson.
And I'm Sant, and we are from the Studio for Urban Projects. We're here on Market Street in the middle of the Central Market area on 6th and Market, and this is Outpost.
As you can hear around us, we're in a really vibrant part of San Francisco, and we're part of the Market Street Urban Prototyping Festival. We've taken on a sort of large-scale project that looks at the street life of San Francisco, the street life of the Tenderloin and south of Market, and how they all kind of converge right here on 6th and Market Street.
With this project, we are really trying to look at it as both architecture and event. So the architecture really changes over 72 hours of programming. So we have a kind of player piano schedule of 72 hours of programming that is interlinked, these kind of three ideas about how we might provoke ways of relating to Market Street. We had a number of collaborators on this project, and one of them included a long-standing arts organization called the Luggage store in Central Market. And they co-curated several projects with us, one of them of which is Room Trade, created by Michael Swain and Paul Benny, which tends the street sort of collaboratively. The Prelinger Library did a 3-day pop-up in this space where they featured a number of books that related both to Market Street and to the ecology of the city.
One really important aspect of Outpost was that we wanted to have an architectural scale. We felt like we needed to kind of match the presence of this sort of civic spine and the kind of vibrancy that you see here with something that not only gestured to the street and the sidewalk, but also gestured to the sort of canopy of these sort of London plane trees that exist here. So we actually built a second level, hoping that we could actually interact.
I am Amber Hasselbring. I'm the Director of Nature in the City. We're a local nonprofit that celebrates nature by inspiring San Francisco to discover local nature. So we're out here for 3 days on Market Street as part of the Prototyping Festival, really bringing local nature concepts into the forefront of urban design. We think it's really impossible to think about one without the other. Yesterday we ran a planting workshop here, and the plants that we planted, we transplanted seedlings with the community, local community garden. We planted for the Western Tiger Swallowtail butterfly all these nectar sources. So what's happening in the downtown, the Western Tiger Swallowtail uses the trees to lay its eggs on, but it doesn't have a lot of nectar sources. So we planted 8 different varieties of nectar flowers that this butterfly depends on when it's flying in its adult phase. Not only for the Western Tiger Swallowtail butterfly, but for bees and moths and birds and pollinators. So we think there can be a lot more dynamic ecosystem going on down here.
In thinking about the Market Street Prototyping Festival, we spent a lot of time thinking about how we could make a system that would accommodate all the programming that we think is really important to kind of seeing our sort of civic spine change over time. And we came up with this sort of modular system with a kind of a universal joint that allowed us to kind of create these sort of programmatic spaces that people could inhabit over the course of these sort of 72 hours we're going to be on the street. Not only here, but in the future, we can actually kind of reconfigure the space.
And so we've done everything from film screenings to planting workshops to bike pit stops. We've had a children's playground running all day, and that programming is really looking at 3 big themes that we were interested in terms of asking questions about what Market Street could become. The first one is, how do we engage with nature in the city? How do we introduce biodiversity into our urban spaces? The second one was, how do we engage active transportation? And really start thinking about our streets as being not just for places for the private automobile, but also more humane places that are safe for bicyclists and pedestrians. And then the third theme was really looking at how do we engage with public life? How do we make interesting and diverse public spaces for people?